Coffee with Heartland podcast, the show built around bringing value to the Mid-Atlantic and growing. We're committed to helping families eating cleaner, safer, healthier foods. I'm Matt Balducci, two-time TEDx speaker, father, husband, huge health nut, and I'm excited to have our special guest back on, and we'll get back into their background after I pass the baton over to Shannon for some announcements, so take it away.
Awesome. Hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday from us at Heartland Foods. Just a couple quick announcements. Make sure that you are following us on Facebook. We have amazing contests that are going on right now. We have some fabulous winners from this past week. Thank you, everyone who has been participating. It's been super fun to see all the engagement, and we'd love to hand out more winners as the month progresses. For our reorder special of this month, December, if you place your order before December 31st, you can receive a peppermint stack cake. A delicious gourmet peppermint stack cake. So make sure you do that. Also, stay tuned to Facebook for our 12 Days of Christmas photo challenge. Make sure to post those photos for a chance to win. And with that, I'll pass it back over to Matt, and we'll get into today's podcast.
All right, let's rock and roll. So with that peppermint cake, just make sure that it fits into the macros of your goals. No, but definitely doesn't fit into mine, and my intolerance is I cannot eat that cake. But yeah, so I'm excited, guys. Happy holidays to the Heartland family. Obviously this year the holidays look a little different for most people. And so, I hope that you're enjoying kind of the relaxation of, kind of not having the huge pressure of the massive get-togethers and things like that. But and I still hope that you're, hanging out with the fam and enjoying your time during this last month of 2020. And the reason I'm excited to have our guest on today is I think that one of the cool factors of December is that a lot of people wait till January 1st to get their goals started. As everyone knows, in January 1st, the gyms get packed. And, what I want you guys to take from this podcast specifically today is that Stephanie and Todd, who I'm going to give their background very briefly here because we have another podcast we did with them previous that you can go check out and get their extensive background, or you can go to their website, The Miller Method, and get their background, check their background as well. But, I think that a lot of people out there right now should be starting their goals now and not waiting for 30 days or that an arbitrary, New Year's resolution, which we all know is traditionally not the most effective way to set a goal and get going. So, but I am excited to have Stephanie and Todd back on the show. Welcome aboard, guys. Are you ready?
We're ready. Thanks, Matt.
Awesome. So real quick background, guys. Again, unbelievable team here representing the Miller Method. So it's Stephanie Mull and Todd Miller, and they have 20 plus years of experience in nutrition and exercise physiology. And so again, from an expertise standpoint, they are phenomenal. They have a plethora, I love that word, a plethora of knowledge that they're going to be able to give to our audience, but also, to myself as well. As today we go through a couple different questions that we didn't get to on our previous podcast. So welcome aboard. How was your guys' Thanksgiving?
Pretty uneventful.
Quiet.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Not a
different
whole lot
this year,
different
right?
than any other. Okay.
Yeah, I was supposed to be in Chicago last week, and they're on lockdown right now. So one of the so we just did my two kids and my wife. It was the first year ever not having turkey. We actually did some sea bass and some delicious vegetables, and then I think we had like a side of beets and sweet potato, so it was delicious.
Nice.
But perfect. So what we're going to start with today, guys, is again, obviously, from a background and from an education standpoint, you guys can, really dive into a lot of different topics. But today we want to focus on two different things. The first one is we want to talk a lot about our partnership that we're super excited about with Heartland and the Miller Method, and how that is going to bring a massive amount of value to not only our clients, but your clients as well. And that's why it's a perfect marriage in terms of us moving forward with your guys' philosophy, our philosophy on basically how to live a healthier life, as well as give phenomenal customer experience. And so, I want to start a little bit, though, with Stephanie. Obviously, you are a client. That's how we actually got introduced. And I know, Becca came out, she did our sales process with you, and it made sense for you to sign up and use our service. So I want to talk a little bit about two things with you to start off, which is the importance of food quality, especially in your guys' program, and why you personally, as a top nutritionist, decided to use Heartland Foods for your source for meat and vegetables. And obviously, Todd, you can jump in and answer anything as well along the way, but Stephanie, so, maybe you guys talk a little bit about the importance of food first, and then a little bit of why Heartland.
Okay. So when it comes to protein, quality matters because there's different types of proteins in terms of the amino acid content and the protein content, which affects the availability, the bioavailability, or the absorption from the gut and the body's ability to use that protein. So, when you're looking at the two different types of proteins, low quality versus high quality, low quality is it's going to be difficult to meet your protein needs and support your muscle tissue and get all the amino acids that you need. But when you include high quality proteins, then you're getting all of those essential amino acids, you're meeting your protein requirements, and it's going to better support your muscle tissue, which improves your body composition.
I love it.
You
And
think
so
you
what
wanna
you're
add on
saying,
there?
Stephanie, is that low quality protein versus high quality. So low quality, you may be technically getting the amount of, grams or ounces of protein you want into your diet, but you're actually not absorbing it and you're not utilizing it to the best of its ability for what it's supposed to do, which is muscle growth. Am I
Right.
summarizing that correctly?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That makes perfect
Yeah, and
sense.
the other thing is also, and this is particularly true when it comes to meats, if you have a low quality cut of meat, it's likely that that meat is going to have a higher fat content and a lower protein content than the same weight of a higher quality meat, like something that comes from Heartland, for example. So if you're trying to reach a certain protein goal while keeping fat intake and calorie intake to a minimum, then it makes sense to work more higher quality, leaner proteins into your diet.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Perfect. And so I like that, from that standpoint too, because, I'm using MyFitnessPal or Lose It or some of the apps that track the chronometer, that track your, a generic piece of chicken. But if you're eating a low quality piece of chicken, it actually might have, double the fat content and you're actually recording it wrong into your macros. Have you guys experienced that, with some of your clients, or maybe when you guys are having them track some of their macros?
Well, we've certainly run into the problem with variability in the food trackers.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you do run into this problem where you can pull up, let's say you put chicken into the thing and you just put chicken breast or something like that. You might get 20 different options there.
Yeah.
And the macro content, it's usually close, but there's still variability in there. And even those things, there's a lot of just inherent error in the food trackers. So, they do the best they can, but you're sort of at the mercy of the tracker in terms of how accurate it actually is. So having something like Heartland, where the quality is there, you get a much better feeling about that, I think, when you enter it than just picking some generic piece of chicken off the tracker database.
The other thing that at least I've noticed personally is when I'm tracking Heartland proteins compared to protein you might find in a grocery store, the protein content is higher in Heartland food choices and the fat is lower.
Per ounce.
Mm-hmm. Right? And that's what Todd was alluding to. It's a higher quality protein, so there's not as much filler stuff. You're getting protein, right? Like more, I don't want to say pure protein, but it's just.
Well, I guess what we're saying is if you eat a piece of Heartland chicken, for example, and you go in and you try and track that, and you're picking a normal piece of chicken that's in the tracker, the macros aren't going to match.
It's not going to align.
Right, because the protein content of the Heartland food is generally going to be a few grams higher, and the fat's going to be a few grams lower.
Right.
Even though you're looking at boneless, skinless chicken breast, which is basically the same cut of meat. It's just that the Heartland has a higher protein and lower fat quantity because of how that animal's raised and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
That makes perfect sense, and that's cool. And so,
and we discovered that just by looking it up. If you just look up the nutrition information from the products that come from the Heartland sources versus the grocery store, and it's
the
there.
Noticeable difference.
Yeah.
And we've seen in our practice, 5 grams or even 10 grams of protein make a difference in somebody as to whether they're losing muscle or gaining muscle. Small amounts can have a significant impact on individual people. So, you can just say, oh, well, I'm doing my best and I'll come close. Well, when it comes to protein, you can't come close, you have to try to get as accurate as possible to what your body needs so that we are protecting your muscle tissue.
Right. And some people can get away with, and we don't know why this is, but some people can get away with eating sort of less protein and they can metabolize it well and everything like that. And then other people just need more. Yeah, I'm an example of that for whatever reason. But other people just need more. So there's variability in that.
Right.
Yeah, which makes perfect sense from a standpoint of if you're trying to maintain muscle or lose fat and you're utilizing protein to essentially increase your lean muscle mass or maintain it, and you are variability every single day, you're eating X chicken breast and you're actually eating 3 grams a day extra fat and you don't even realize it, that over time doesn't help you achieve the goal you're trying to achieve, which is makes perfect sense. So, especially with what you guys are talking about, which is utilizing science, which is, the metabolic test, the DEXA scan, and actually utilizing real trackers versus just a made up number or a calculator online to figure out what, you're supposed to eat from a macro standpoint.
Don't do those.
Yeah, those don't work very well.
Don't do those.
I think we talked about that last time. Yeah, I agree too. So, from a standpoint of protein, obviously we're almost on this topic, which is a cool topic, obviously, one, because that's what we sell. But two is, I'm a huge believer in protein, but why is that, a huge macro? Why is that a very important macro out of the three, versus carbs and fat? Obviously, all of them are important, but why is that the one that you guys are saying that you really want to be accurate with in terms of the number of ounces or grams that you're trying to, ingest? Right.
So, you want me to answer?
Yeah, you go. You can go. I'll add on.
What was the question again?
Why do you put emphasis on protein?
Oh, okay, yeah. So there's 3 macronutrients: fat, protein, carbs, and the protein is the macronutrient that doesn't provide energy. Fat and carbohydrates provide energy. Protein actually provides the building blocks to generate new muscle. So if you don't eat enough, let's say you don't eat enough carb one day, or you don't eat adequate amounts of fat one day, you have a bunch of that in reserve that you can just pull from to use, right? You have plenty of body fat you don't need to worry about hitting your fat target for the day because there's no fear that you're going to run out of fat. You have enough on you, even if you're lean. But with muscle, if you don't get protein through the diet, the dietary protein that you eat gets broken down into amino acids, and then those amino acids get reassembled back into muscle. Well, if you're not eating protein, the body still needs amino acids. So it'll break down your existing muscle to liberate those proteins, or it will take carbohydrate that you eat and convert that to protein through a process called gluconeogenesis. Then you don't have enough carbs. So protein is critical because you have to get it through the diet, because we don't really have a storage form for it.
The storage form is muscle tissue.
Your own muscle, and you don't want to pull from your own muscle to repair your own muscle, because then you just end up with progressive loss of muscle over time.
And the other thing, protein, like Todd said, it's the building block, not only for muscle, but every single cell and tissue in our body. And those things are constantly turning over. We're aging. All of us are aging, right? Regardless of your age, you're getting older and you're living your life and you're breathing oxygen and you're exercising and you're moving, and that causes cellular turnover. And protein is responsible for creating new cells and new tissues, but then especially the muscle tissue, right? Because the muscle tissue contributes to the metabolism. Okay, and we want to make sure that we're keeping our metabolisms as functional and as fired up as we possibly can.
Right, because we want to burn the most calories possible in a day, and muscle is the largest consumer of calories in the body. So the more that you have, the more that you move, the more that you engage, the more calories you burn.
Right.
And the more calories you burn, the more liberty you have to eat and still stay in a calorie deficit and not gain fat.
Wow.
That
was huge.
Yeah, I just learned so much.
Yeah, so I think the coolest thing from that is, from people that are listening, and tell me if I'm wrong, Stephanie and Todd, but especially, ladies, where they're nervous about putting more muscle on. They don't realize, maybe they're not realizing that, one, they're never going to be bodybuilders, but two, is that if they do increase their muscle by a couple pounds per se, right, and that's going to actually allow them to get leaner and also take some of that fat reserve that they have on their body and get rid of that. And now they're essentially on the scale weight, they're still going to be the same weight, but now their body composition is completely different. They're more muscular and they have a lower body fat percentage. Is that accurate?
Yeah. And, females worry. This is the disconnect. In our experience, I don't want to blanket this statement, but in our experience, females say they want muscle, but are terrified of what the scale is going to say.
Right.
They're
They want
terrified.
muscle as long as the
right.
scale
As long
weight
as the
doesn't go
scale
up.
goes down. And there's just a huge disconnect. And it's a mental barrier. They just need more education, more support, and they need to live it because, we all want to feel strong. We all want to feel functional. Again, like you don't want to be moving boxes like Christmas decoration boxes or something around your house. And because you don't do anything to support your muscle tissue, you pull your back out, right? Because the muscle isn't intact to support your skeleton, right? Stupid stuff like that starts happening. So, having that muscle tissue is so important. I think we all want to feel strong, but again, we have to get over this mental barrier, this mental block of being concerned about what the scale says.
Yeah, it's interesting because if you ask a guy what they want, they'll say, "Well, I want to look a certain way.
Right.
I want to be able to see my abs. I want to be ripped."
Right.
If you ask a woman what they want, they say, "Well, I don't want to be over 135."
Right.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
But the truth is, they want the same thing as the guy does.
do.
They want to look a certain way, but it doesn't come across that way.
So here's what females say. Females say they want to be toned.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a thing.
No, it's not a thing.
That's not a thing.
You don't train to get toned.
You don't
can't
tone.
do it. This is my toning program.
Todd's favorite phrase is the muscle either gets bigger or it gets smaller. There's no such thing as toning it. Like
Tone,
you can't.
right. Tone really just refers to the resting sort of electrical potential of the muscle, the resting contraction level, which nobody even understands.
No one even understands. Like, don't go there.
So,
but essentially, what
right.
females mean when they say tone, you're like, well, what does that mean? They're like, well, I want to be able to see my muscle definition.
So you want to lose fat and gain muscle.
You want to be lean.
No, I want to be toned.
That's right. I want to be toned.
Right. Okay, you want to lose fat and gain muscle. Right.
So it's they're using the wrong language, and it's just a lack of education because tone is what you hear in the media.
Right. Because saying gaining muscle is a turn off.
It's a turn
Right.
off
Because
for females.
all they hear is gain.
Right.
Gain. Oh, I don't want to gain. I want to
weight
lose.
and I'm getting bigger.
Right.
No, you're not. If you lean yourself out, if you grow muscle tissue and lose fat, you might stay the same weight. You may go up, you may go down. It depends on what your starting point is, but your body size is going to shrink.
Mm-hmm.
That's what matters.
Right.
It's the size, not the weight.
No. And we had, I remember this one person, a female, who we asked her, we said, look, if you could be a size 2 in the mirror, but weigh 150 on the scale, would you be okay with that? She was like, no.
Nope.
I don't want to be 150. So now that's a psychological issue,
yeah.
right? Because that person, nobody knows what her weight is when you look at her.
No.
You can't say, she's under 150.
But it was her own thing.
Right. She had that block where she was so tied to that number on the scale that what she looked like was really secondary, because she would feel better about herself being lighter and looking heavier than looking leaner and being heavier. Right.
And I think there are a lot more females out there that are like that.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't admit that.
Right. Because they realize when you hear it, when you say it to yourself, you're like, that doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense. Right. Again, there's a disconnect there.
Right.
Wow.
It's crazy. It's basically a poor relationship with the scale, right? With the weight, the number.
It is. And that's not a problem that you're going to resolve just by telling somebody they need to track their food and get a metabolism test. So there's a lot of, this is especially true with women. There's a lot of stuff wrapped up in your relationship with food that sort of influences your behavior.
Absolutely.
And that makes sense. And I've seen it when I was in the fitness industry a little bit. It's pretty wild, because you can be 150 pounds. There could be 4 women standing there in front of you. They're all 150, but their body compositions are completely different. different shapes, sizes, metrics, everything.
Right.
And it's just a number on the scale, you know. And I remember when I was, I think I was like 195, and I was standing next to one of my best friend's cousins, and he was 195, and he was like, dude, we're the same weight, but what's going on here, you know? And it's just muscle. What people should be focusing on, and it's challenging for women, I believe, is the muscle aspect. And that's what men out there, if you're listening as well, that's all you really should be paying attention to, is your lean muscle mass on your body, and either maintaining that or increasing it. And again, obviously, figuring out what your body fat percentage is going to look like. And that's really what generates what Todd and Stephanie are talking about, is that extra physique look, or the abs, or whatever it is. And I've had people all the time, hey, I want 6-pack. And it's like, well, all right, well, we're not talking about right now losing weight. We're talking about changing your entire body composition. So we got to move some weight around, or we got to lose some fat, but it's going to take us to X percentage body fat, depending on your genetics, to get that result. You know, are you prepared to do that? Are you prepared to make the sacrifices and change the way you eat and work out? So let's talk a little bit about the holidays coming up, right? So we just left Thanksgiving, which again was a completely different Thanksgiving holiday. But we're going into Christmas, and obviously during this time, there's the goodies out there. I know my wife is a huge baker, so I came home the other day to a delicious holiday cake. And you know, even though I know it's bad for me, I still had some, and it was delicious. But it's
no, it's not bad for you.
See, he made the mistake of saying it was bad. Cinnamon rolls are not bad.
You're correct. Okay, guys. Okay.
I know it's bad.
I agree. And it's probably my poor relationship with food as well. Which
no,
is true.
I think it's conditioning.
Yeah,
we are conditioned to label food as good or bad.
Right, and that, you know, that is a big problem, because what it does is, like, you just labeled cake as being bad and something you know you shouldn't eat, but it's probably something that you really like.
Yeah.
Right. So basically, what you've told yourself is, one, I'm bad for liking it.
Right.
First of all.
Right.
I'm bad for eating it because I shouldn't have eaten it.
Right.
And now you feel like crap for doing it. Now you're a guy, so you probably don't feel as bad as a woman would.
Easily,
right. Yeah. But usually, and what we tell people all the time is, when you label food like that, especially when it's a food you like, you tend to avoid these things and then beat yourself up for eating them. Yeah. And once you go down that road, if you do end up eating something and then feel bad about doing it, you're much more likely to eat more of it.
Yeah.
Because you're like, well, I already screwed it up. I've already messed up my day. Right. I might as well just stay home with it and go down the rabbit hole.
Right.
Right. And the reality is, one piece of cake probably is not going to affect anything at all. No. Right. Especially if it's something that you're doing around the holidays. Big deal, you know. And the whole point of having these holiday things is so that you can indulge during these times, and then during the rest of the year, not, you know, go back to eating normally. The problem is everybody eats standard Western diet for the entire year, and then they just add more on that in the holidays.
You know why? It's because we forbid things.
Yeah, everything's off limits. Everything's bad. Yeah.
So you get into this horrific cycle where it's no, I'm not going to eat sugar. I'm not going to eat anything processed. Everything's going to be from the ground. And then, you know, I don't know.
I'm starving. I can't eat this anymore.
It's true. It's funny, but it's so true.
I love it. I just got a free coaching session.
Exactly what happened.
So our advice there, before we completely derailed your topic, Matt, sorry.
No, this is good. I just got some free coaching, and honestly, I think the value there is for our audience to see why this partnership is so phenomenal. Is you're not coming from the standpoint of the traditional fitness coaches out there, right? Which is, all right, we need to starve you. We need to reduce your calories. We need you to go hit the cardio, you know, hours on hours just so you can lose weight. So then you can have that scale weight look good. But in reality, you're going to gain it back anyway. So let's talk about holistically the relationship you have with food. Let's talk about what you should be eating, not limiting how you think about it. I think psychologically, you guys bring extreme value to the table, where if anybody's listening, they have to understand that you guys are actually coming from a completely different perspective, which is the right perspective. Well, when I say the right perspective, what I mean by that is you're coming from a perspective that you're trying to teach people to actually have a lifestyle versus a quick fat loss or weight loss program that we see out there, especially during this time and going to be coming out in January, as you know, every gym out there right now is getting prepared for the madness that's going to happen from January to April 1st. Right. And so I think that this is awesome.
It's like February 1st. Dive off real fast.
There's no way.
The 30 days, right?
April is when you'll start getting the spring breakers coming to trend. Yeah. So essentially, you know, it's actually a pretty good point. We always tell our clients never use a date on a calendar
or an event
as a marker for setting a goal. Like, so for example, how many times have we heard somebody come in and say, I want to fit into this dress for my daughter's wedding?
Bikini, dress, New Year's,
any event on the calendar,
a graduation. I mean, like my birthday, a cruise, the beach.
The problem is anytime you use an event on the calendar as a motivator for weight loss is that event eventually passes. The date is eventually over, right? And then you go right back to where you were. And you know, our approach, there's basically two ways we think to approaching weight loss. We've never really talked about this, but I'm just throwing it out there. You can either approach weight loss from the standpoint of I want to see how much weight I can take off as fast as I can. And that's what like Weight Watchers, Jenny, all these things that you see. And then the other approach is how do we make a lifestyle change that allows somebody to change their body composition forever? Right? That's the difference. So changing your body composition forever is a very, very different approach than losing 15 pounds on Jenny Craig, right? They're completely different how you approach those things. This is why when we don't demonize things like cake and cupcakes and carbs and stuff like that, because that's what our food supply is in the United States. And you have to be able to live within that environment. And the vast majority of people, if you try and deviate from any processed food or not eat any of this stuff, it's either really, really difficult or you're just miserable or both the entire time. And it's not realistic. And this is why 98% of people who lose weight gain it all back because they cannot maintain whatever the mechanism is that caused them to lose it. So the way we look at that is then that mechanism is useless. It's not, why do it? So if all you care about is losing weight for an event, and then you don't care if you gain it all back, well then go ahead. But that's not the kind of person that we don't meld well with that person because it's not a good fit.
Wow, man, oh man. So dropping bombs. So big thing, guys, as you can see out there, if you're listening from our Heartland family, this is the partnership. This is why we brought on, you know, Stephanie and Todd into, you know, our family here and wanted to generate this marriage. So one of the big things that we're going to pull up right now, just so you guys can see it, is our partnership website. And this is actually a joint offer that we're offering. And the website is heartlandfoods.com/try-Miller method. Okay. And we'll put this in the comments below so you guys have this. And Stephanie and Todd can also, obviously, you guys can use that as well. But this is where you can click on this, and what's going to happen is it'll go directly to Stephanie and Todd, and then they can give you guys a shout, and you guys can set up a coaching call and go over the specifics that are taking place. And then, obviously, if Stephanie and Todd with your audience, we have a special offer for them as well. And I'll have Shannon explain that here in a second. But the reason that we're so excited is the fact that, again, from a customer experience standpoint, you're talking about longevity here. You're talking about actually having a life change. You're not talking about that instant gratification or that, you know, that wow diet that is out there. And again, I've sat through multiple different sales meetings when it comes to fitness itself. And guess what? Everyone sells. Let's figure out something on the calendar. Let's lose X amount of weight by that date. And it is true, as post that date, unless that person is motivated or if they find that next event, then you're basically jumping from event to event, and eventually you're going to run out of events. And it's going to be super easy to fall right back into your old habits, which has happened to me before, right? And so, you know, I guess from that standpoint, maybe some tips, your guys' philosophy then on how to stay, you know, healthy. And when I say the word healthy, obviously that's a generic term, but how to get through the holidays with a reasonable mindset so that way you can actually, you know, not come out of the end of the tunnel 15 pounds heavier or the extra 7 pounds that you're, you know, a lot of people are going to gain and then go into January and then have to, you know, basically lose that before they can even start making a dent on their their actual goal. So what are some tips or tricks or things you guys recommend for people during this next month?
Well, the first thing, because it's sweets overload typically through the holidays, is only eat what you really like.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people eat things because it's there. Oh, it's the holidays. Let me eat this. So only eat what you really like.
And then they take a bite of it and don't really like it, but they'll just eat the whole
They'll
thing
eat it
anyway. Right. Chuck that crap.
That is so true.
You're talking about me. Like,
Get rid of it and grab something else. Don't worry about hurting people's feelings.
Right. I think a second thing is don't label what you're doing as good or bad. It's just food. It's just food, right? Be intentional with your choices. So this is where eating what you like comes into play, but know that you are responsible for what you put into your body. So if you are okay enjoying the sweet treats and having 5 cupcakes, then do it. But can you be satisfied with having 1? Right? So just be very intentional with your portions.
Or can you eat 5 and not beat yourself up for it?
Right, because that's okay too.
That's okay too.
Right.
If you want to eat 5 cupcakes,
That's fine.
and you can eat 5 cupcakes and you're happy and you're like, oh man, that was great,
Right.
and not beat yourself up, then that's okay.
Right.
You're not going to eat 5 cupcakes every day, right? It's Christmas.
I think another thing is trying to stay very, very mindful. Listen to your body. When you get full, stop eating.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think that's another thing that we do. We're distracted and we've got all this different food around us, and it's very easy to ignore our body signals. That food's not going anywhere, and even if it is, who cares? Another sweet treat or fun food's going to show up anyway.
Yeah. Some practical strategies that we always tell people, like people are always asking us, how do I keep from overindulging if I go to some Christmas party? Our favorite one is drink a protein shake before you go, or something like that. A protein shake will fill you up. It'll stave off some of those cravings.
You'll be in a lot more control instead of, I won't eat all day so I can save room for this party later. What do you think is going to happen? You'll be like a bear going into hibernation. How much food can I get in my belly? Right? So don't do that. Eat that. I mean, that's what so many people
Everybody
do.
does it. Yeah, everybody does it.
Right? They're trying to save room. You're doing yourself a disservice. Do not do that. Eat normally. Maybe try to keep your portions a little lighter moving through the day. Really bump up your protein. Have a protein shake right before you walk out the door, and you'll be in a lot better control.
I love it. I love it. Great tips. Great tips. So I'm excited, guys, for this partnership. Is there anything, Simon and Shannon, you want to add and explain to our clients on how to access this partnership and some more details specifically based on it? Yeah,
I think you guys pretty much covered it. Make sure to check out the page, heartlandfoods.com/try-Miller method. On that page, you'll be able to schedule a call directly with Stephanie and Todd. You can check out the full webinar, a 30-minute webinar that they have that's an in-depth kind of overview of the same stuff we're talking about on the podcast today.
Lots of knowledge and wealth in there,
Definitely. And also, you could get 2 weeks of free food with your first Heartland order if you're a Miller Method client and you schedule a tasting with Heartland Foods. So if you are a Heartland customer, look out for an email. We'll be putting out some information over social media over the next couple weeks, and we really hope that everyone takes advantage of this awesome opportunity.
I love it. And so with that, guys, I said it 100 times on here, so I don't want to, beat a drum here, but I am excited about this partnership. And as you guys probably know out there, is Heartland takes into account the quality of our partnerships. We don't just bring on anybody. We've done extensive meetings with Stephanie and Todd to make sure on both sides of the coin that, it's a perfect fit, and it is, from what they're talking about with their philosophy to also from their mindset when it comes to working with their clients. We're excited for our Heartland clients to go to Stephanie and Todd, get the results they need for life, right? And actually make a life change and actually make a physique change that is a lifestyle. And that's the coolest factor of this. And every time I talk to you guys, it's funny because I can't see, people don't know this, but I can't see Stephanie and Todd. So, every time we have these podcasts or we get on a conversation, I learn a ton about my mindset too,
Me too.
where I'm actually going to take into account, enjoy the sweets if you want them, but don't deem them good or bad, and make sure that, you're mindful of what you're putting in your body. but you're also tracking it. And I love the concept of eating a protein shake, because I've definitely been there in the past, which is I'm not going to eat all day because I know tonight I'm going to eat 4,000 calories of food, right? And then, as everyone knows, you go into a food coma, you pass out, and
Tryptophan.
yeah, and then you wake up the next day inflamed, which most people don't realize that's what that is. It's inflammation, and you feel like crap, and you feel hungover, food hangover. But with that, guys, I'm excited for the partnership, and we're gonna end our podcast for the day. And I just want to say thank you. Oh, you got one more? Go ahead.
I don't think we mentioned that all the Heartland customers actually get a call with Todd and Stephanie at half price. So that's worth mentioning as well.
So,
go
yeah,
ahead.
they normally do a $100 coaching call, but with this special partnership, you could get a half price coaching call where they're going to go over some tailored recommendations specifically for you and your family's needs. So it's a really great opportunity. And Stephanie and Todd, like Matt said, we love having you guys on. The information is so amazing. We love sharing it with our client base, and we look forward to having you guys on again soon. And have a wonderful holiday.
Awesome. And last thing before we end is I want everyone out there with the holidays coming up, if you're thinking about a Christmas gift, this is a phenomenal Christmas gift to give somebody. Now, again, obviously, I recommend don't say, hey, I think you need to lose weight, so I'm hooking you up with Stephanie and Todd. But I do think that you can pitch it as an educational meeting where they can actually talk a little bit about, how it's going to work to get the goals that they want. So if you have that person in your family right now that maybe has been talking about personal trainers or nutritionists or whatnot, this is a phenomenal opportunity and a great Christmas gift that you can give them, which I think is phenomenal. So with that, we're going to end, guys. Oh, yeah, give me that. There we go. With that, we're going to end, guys, and we're excited. Happy holidays to everyone out there that's celebrating all different holidays during this holiday season. Be safe, be healthy, and do not deem anything as bad. Enjoy the goodies, and I will talk to everyone later. Stay healthy with Heartland.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Dude,